Howdy folks, I'm currently back home in Kansas, located somewhere between Nowheresville and the place where the house landed on the witch. Doesn't matter. Seeing as we bring some makery skills with us nowadays, I've been asked if I could make an industrial style railing for my friend's patio, because he's got a couple of little ones and there's nothing stopping them from tumbling right off the edge, which I guess is a problem. Have I ever made a railing before? Nope. Seems like a big project, but as long as I break it down to its simplest pieces and go step by step, we'll get to where we're going. I may not have access to all the tools that I'm used to, but that's never really stopped me before. I have a pretty minimal setup here, access to this big beautiful barn on the property, and I'm always up for a challenge. So, first things first, we need measurements. Now that I've got my measurements, I can start thinking of the construction and how I'm going to break this up.
So basically it's 4 rectangles. This one's a little weird. And boy, do I know something about rectangles. Hold on. Normal railing height is between 34 and 38 inches. So we'll just split the difference and go 36. And then we want to allow for some overhang so we can mount that to the concrete. Something like this.
It's a pretty simple construction, though I do have to account for capping the ends because here in Kansas there happens to be a lot of critters that would love to make their homes inside of the ends of the tube steel. Anywho. So my overall length needs to be 108 3/4, but I'm going to add 2 inches so that I can flip it over and use it as an end cap. I'll show you that in a second. So you can see there's a little bit of a gap. What I'm gonna do is start welding here where it's tight and then keep booping it down with the hammer so we get a nice tight fit. Now I'm going to tack the 2 uprights in place and then tack the crossbar, and then I'll drive all the welds home. I'm going to use these big welding magnets for the inner corners, but I'm going to also use this pad just to keep a 90 on the exterior. How awesome is that? Now that I've got this tacked, I'm just going to double check that this distance is the same as that distance, and that this distance is the same as that distance. Then it means we're square. Hope for the best. 30! 108 3/4, 108 and 3/4. Go! Now that we've got that first piece done, I'm going to move on to this L shape right here. And I'm actually going to use the first piece as a jig for this, so I don't go making this piece, trying to weld it, and realize that I'm completely off. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Just a quick note for this top piece. I did make it 2 inches longer so that we can floop it over, make another end cap when it attaches here. And I definitely did not make that mistake the first time I was cutting the material.
now that I've got this section done, I'm actually gonna move on to the staircase because this drops 18 inches to the next section and it drops 2 inches over the 10-foot span, and that's all a bunch of complicated math. But if I do the staircase, then wherever the top of the staircase is will attach right here because it has to. So let's do the staircase. So as you can see, Mother Nature decided to drop in and say hello, but I'm actually using the snow to level out my top post and my bottom post. That way when I put this piece, which will become our bottom railing, I know the exact angle that I need to cut it at. I'll mark this in space, that way I know the angles are absolutely correct, and we'll match them up with the dimensions of everything inside. Easy peasy, no math. I've laid a jig out on the floor at 48 inches wide, which is the span of our stairs. If I've done this correctly, and I put this piece here, our mark line on this edge should fall right on the outer post. What? How cool is that? So now I'm just gonna use the offcuts, my little bitty offcuts, to make sure that the angles are correct. All these little leftovers should match in all of the corners if I did my job right. Now that I've got my frames done, what I want to do is put some angle iron in here. That way we can drill holes for the turnbuckles, which are attached to the steel cable. So let's cut all these. So now I've got to drill holes for all of our turnbuckles. How many holes? Well, I worked it out with the homeowner and he said we can't have more than a 4-inch gap. We know it's 30 inches long, so I went to my mom, who's a math teacher, and said, hey mom, I got 30 inches. No more than 4-inch gap. What do you got? Every 3.75. Thanks, Mom. How nice that handwriting is. If all you've got is a hand drill, it's not super difficult, just very repetitive. Either way, I would suggest center punching so you don't get any drift out of your bit. Boop. Now I'm just going to center these on each rail and weld them in place. Easy peasy. Now what I've got to do is prep 28 lengths of wire, 56 turnbuckles and collars, 20 mounting brackets, 4 for each post, and then wire wheel everything and prep it for clear coat. Let's get to it.
All right, so everything's prepped, and as much as I'd like to say I could do this whole project myself, I can't. So I'm calling in reinforcements so we can mount this thing.